God bless. I hope you're having a good day. Let's get to the video. Roll it!
Rockstars, I'm Eric Voss.
All right.
And this is a breakdown of the new
y'all got to it first. Y'all know your team is OD, Eric.
trailer for Fantastic Four First Steps. So many details and Easter eggs to break down in these shots, and I thought the director said there wouldn't be Easter eggs. Turns out, just kidding. There just aren't a whole lot of references to the 616 MCU. And of course there aren't. We're in an alternate universe. But there are lots of blink and you'll miss it winks hidden throughout these shots.
Man,
so I'm going to break them all down in a frame-by-frame breakdown of every...
Hey man, bro, it ain't.
You'll miss
listen, people are mistaking her for like the Silver Surfer, but apparently that's another
winks
character.
hidden throughout these shots.
So because that's another character, I'm not even mad about it. And plus, she's
I'm gonna break them all down.
Even though she's silver and I don't know what she looks like.
In a
I ain't gonna lie, she look kind of bad though.
frame-by-frame breakdown.
I feel like Torch gonna fall in love with her.
Everything you missed and stretch
what's
my
that
theories
about
farther
the
than
comics?
Reed stretches his
Yo,
body.
that was
Also,
hard.
you may have noticed we have these new Fantastic Four themed shirts available at nerdriot.shop, including this great Future Foundation shirt that will only be more and more relevant as the organization that Susan Storm and her son Franklin Richards will be using to pick up the pieces after Avengers Doomsday and Secret Wars. Shirts like these are the best way to support us at New Rockstars. All right, let's get started.
I might have to cop that, man. I'm really a nerd. I like that
folks,
shit.
We all know the story. 4 brave astronauts head up into space and come back forever changed.
This car?
Okay, while we don't see this on the YouTube upload, the high-res EPK version of the trailer that opens with a green band from the MPA also includes a film projector sound effect and a blue band 35mm bumper reading, "The following preview has been approved to accompany this feature by the Motion Picture Association, Inc." And it's off-center with a couple visible film grain lines flickering on the film celluloid, like we are seeing this in the cinema in the 60s, where the projectionist didn't care to line it up properly because it's just a preview bumper, also because he might be downstairs in the break room getting high. But we open now on the Ted Gilbert Show, an Ed Sullivan style talk show in this alternate universe 1960s. Ted Gilbert is played by Mark Gatiss, who played Mycroft Holmes in the BBC Sherlock series and a number of other roles over his career. 4 dancers consisting of 2 couples part upon his entrance, with the women blowing him kisses. And having worked on a talk show soundstage earlier in my career, I just love the authentic little details director Matt Shackman puts throughout this shot, probably because he was a child actor who grew up on a ton of TV soundstages. We see a "No loud talking please" sign on the back wall, and the prompter beneath the camera on the lower left has the script written on actual paper that scrolls, which is how live TV used to do it before the teleprompter was widely used. But by opening with this TV host saying, "We all know the story, 4 brave astronauts head up into space and come back forever changed," it's really a signal to us, the viewers, that this movie will not retread on the origin story of the Fantastic Four, but rather find them as already established heroes in this alternate universe. A comprehensive article about this film by Entertainment Weekly last week went into detail about how—
That's a fire shot. Nah.
A comprehensive article about this film by Entertainment Weekly last week.
Why they look cool as hell though? Nah, this squad is cool. Nah, she is bad.
Went into detail about how, in addition to being superpowered astronauts, Reed Richards and Sue Storm were already famous and accomplished for other feats. Reed for being a combination of Steve Jobs, Albert Einstein, and Robert Morse in this universe, a man who built the retrofuturist dreams into a reality to make everyday life in this version of New York better for all, and Susan Storm for leading the Future Foundation, a global peacekeeping organization that has brought about world peace. And so it sounds like World War II in this reality ended without—
No, I want them to show how Reed bagged Pseudo. Oh my god, they always— come on, we don't want to see the whole story, but we want to see the good stuff. Goodness, I want to see the transformation too. Just give us like 5 minutes. What is it?
A couple of booms because we
want to see
a
it
nerd
one
more
time.
cautious than J. Robert Oppenheimer in the room. And there's probably no Cold War against the Russians, and instead of nuclear technology, this universe might just be running on a cleaner, safer type of energy. Then we see the 16mm shots of the Fantastic Four getting ready for their initial space space flight. The patch on Ben's arm is not NASA, but rather ANSA, A-N-S-A, American National Space Agency, which would be the alternate universe space travel organization in the United States government, presumably because NASA would not exist in this reality since there is no Cold War or space race against the cosmonauts. We see shots of the Fantastic Four's.
He's in The Last of Us and the Fantastic. Boy, that is heavy work. Boy, he is wild.
Rocket, the Marvel 1, blasting off into space, ice chunks breaking off of it as it launches off the launch pad, which we know will be the Excelsior launch pad in the East River by the Baxter Building. And we see the nose of the shuttle breaking the sound barrier. Cheering fans wave American flags and smaller blue and white flags of the Fantastic Four logo. And I think this might be for a parade with all four of them, because when it comes to just Ben Grimm, the Thing, it seems like he might be facing some apprehension for his appearance by adults, but only true adoration from children who wouldn't care about that kind of thing. We see Ben on the corner of Yancey Street and Suffolk Street. Yancey Street is Ben Grimm's home neighborhood in the comics, where he was part of the Yancey Street gang who later mocked Ben for selling out and abandoning his working class roots. It was actually based on Delancey Street, a working class Jewish neighborhood where Jack Kirby grew up. And so we see Horowitz Clothing in the upper left, which is a generic name for Jewish people, but let's pretend it's a reference to Josh Horowitz, the best pop culture interviewer in the business. God bless that man. We also see M. Gable Books with Hebrew on this sign, and with a 4 banner hanging behind them, seeming to be adjacent to a building that we're pretty sure is a synagogue. In the shot of Ben lifting the Volkswagen Bug, which is a shade of seafoam green that was very popular in the 60s. Over on the upper right, you can see Scheckerberg's Pawn Shop, a reference to Hiram Scheckerberg, the pawn shop broker on Yancey Street in 2002's Fantastic Four Volume 3, number 56. A businessman, Ben Grimm, had pissed off by throwing rocks at his...
what if this whole time Eric is literally just this shit don't even mean nothing. He's just making it mean something, man.
Store. And by the blue Ford truck across the street, we see Stanley's Service Center, which could be a nod to Stan Lee, who is also Jewish and shortened his name from Stanley Martin Lieber. Actually, Eben Moss-Bachrach in that Entertainment Weekly article went into how he had also played Micro in the Marvel Universe in the Punisher series on Netflix, aka David Lieberman, a character who also shared part of his surname with Stan Lee's born surname of Lieber. You can also see some jack-o'-lanterns on the higher balconies of these apartments, so this would be Halloween time in New York. And then shortly after this, the kids in the Pinewood car run past an H. Stern tailor shop, and his sign also has Hebrew on it. This neighborhood in New York City seems very grounded and working class without any particular retro-futurist trappings, but you do see the Tomorrowland Jetson skyline above and beyond this neighborhood, because the Entertainment Weekly article also included the production designer Kazra Farahani, who worked on Loki, pointing out that not all neighborhoods in Manhattan in this movie benefit from the future tech, and so there's still something of a wealth gap in this alternate universe as well. Like, there might be world peace, but it's not fully egalitarian. All right, let's move on.
Our city, our planet, owe a
That
debt
makes
to these
sense.
intrepid souls. And while we can never repay them, we can certainly celebrate them.
Thank you, Fantastic Four. Thank you.
Thank you, Fantastic Four!
Please
I feel like
welcome
it's
the
fake.
Fantastic Four.
So we see these 3 girls pushing a Pinewood car painted blue with a 4 on it. These kids are obviously trying to make their own fantastic car. Then we see these kids rounding the corner, running to the electronics store to see the TV. And we see a sign on the left side of the street that looks like Aqua-Cola, that maybe looks like an orange soda, maybe a Fanta brand. Aqua-Cola was Immortan Joe's word for water in the Mad Max universe. But these kids crowd around a TV in the display window, and on one of the sales tags, we can see the detail that I saw in the February teaser. This store is called Kaplan's, which could be a nod to one of the screenwriters who worked on this movie, Jeff Kaplan, or it could just be a generic name, or it could be a nod to the New Jersey family of William Kaplan. Ted Gilbert is on the center TV, while the left side screens show Ben and Johnny, and then Sue and Reed are on the upper right, and this looks like the recording of the interview they did in the Baxter Building when they said every Sunday night at 7, no matter what. Herbie, the robot, is on the lower right, shaking a cocktail shaker and seemingly getting a bit dizzy from his eyes rolling around. We see a woman with flour on her hands, probably working in that bakery, thanking the Fantastic Four, then a group of girls with popsicles, then a group of firefighters, and then a man with just a mug of coffee toasting them. I assume this 60mm footage is part of the documentary that Ted Gilbert's producers threw together as a celebration of the Fantastic Four, maybe a pre-roll that played on the studio TV screens before Ted Gilbert introduced the Four in costume on a set that looks just like the Ed Sullivan Beatles set from 1963. Now, yes, there is something a little too positive, a little too saccharine about the public affection for the Fantastic Four, but I think that's the point, folks. The plot of this movie is gonna take a universally praised group of heroes and suddenly turn everyone in the society against them to make this foursome hated and scorned. These heroes are gonna have to face letting everyone in this world, even the kids, even the elderly, even the firefighters, die. Like, Ben may be the hero to these kiddies now, but as soon as Galactus shows up, he's gonna be like, F them kids. All right, moving on.
tough.
Herbie, how's that sauce?
Yeah, because everybody's saying this world is gonna die, so it's just like, all right. Because, you know, I mean, what the hell what are they gonna, I mean, they would have to do time travel. What are they gonna do about Galactus? The nigga's walking in the street. Each footstep is like the size of a damn block.
Fantastic.
You're late.
What do you mean?
What do you mean? What do I mean? You're late for dinner.
That nigga hit a two-step, he take out 5
I
blocks.
just said that.
No, he taking out 2 blocks, but
What?
yeah, man, whatever.
You're gonna be the best mom in the world. And you are gonna be the best dad. Just kidding. You are out of your depth. We are gonna be the best uncles ever.
We can do this. Nothing's going to change.
Yo, Mr. Fantasticer,
The Marvel
your
Studios
arms
title
around.
card places the letters of M-A-R-V-L in diagonal folded boxes, inspired by Hollywood's historic Cinerama Dome Theater, which also opened in 1963. I'm gonna continue to pitch Disney to please host this movie's premiere in the Cinerama Dome in Hollywood this summer. I know you guys love doing your premieres in the El Capitan since, you know, you own that one, but the Cinerama Dome still has not reopened since COVID, and this should be the movie to do it. We see shots that we've seen before of the elevator doors opening on the Baxter Building living room and Herbie making the gravy for Sunday dinner as Ben does a taste test. I broke down why the VFX of this shot and the design of the character is actually pretty great in the February teaser. The clock on the wall shows it's 6:26, meaning we are 34 minutes away from 7 o'clock on the dot. We see Johnny grabbing a drink from the fridge, but I think this would be the dinner that Reed and Sue are late to, because we now see Johnny in just his t-shirt picking up a box of cereal, Lucky Charms, and behind that box is a box of Kicks, and both designs are vintage designs from the 1960s.
Man,
I suppose in this
nobody
alternate universe they also
Kix.
have these specific General Mills brands of cereal. And when Marvel posted this clip last Sunday instead of their normal every Sunday at 7 clip, many of you noticed how on the back of this Lucky Charms cereal box is Jack Kirby's original comic art of the Human Torch. Marvel Studios actually recreated that art in their 4/4/24 day poster of Johnny Storm, which included the heat lines that Kirby added on Johnny's body whenever he flames on. Now, this cereal box promises free Human Torch figure, and if delicious heart stars and horseshoes, clovers and blue moons, pots of golden rainbows and me red balloons wasn't enough to snatch this off the shelf,
commercial.
we get a Human Torch figurine too? Are you kidding me? Maybe Johnny reaches for this one because he's excited to get a toy of himself, and maybe being on Lucky Charms is a sign that Johnny's gonna be particularly lucky compared to the others. We get the fun wordplay here that by late, they realize that Sue is late, as in pregnant, and I love how Herbie goes, what? Johnny teases Reed that he's out of his depth, which is a pretty good joke considering this is an astrophysicist who feels guilty for stretching reality too far, because he's right. No knowledge that you've gained from the universe or the multiverse can prepare you for being a parent. Sue being pregnant in this movie was confirmed earlier this month at CinemaCon when a version of this trailer was shown to attendees, and yes, it is a rare bit of validation for me when I predicted back in February that this was the case based on the awkward VFX scrubbed shot of Vanessa Kirby's wobble and the shot that we all saw of Sue flickering in and out of visibility in space where she's posed like she is in labor. Sue and Reed have 2 kids in the comics, Franklin Richards and then later Valeria Richards. This baby is Franklin. Reed and Sue don't seem to already have a kid here. This is definitely their first. I went into why Franklin Richards is so important in another video, but he really does represent Marvel's future. He's an Omega level mutant, a reality warper who's battled Celestials, and resurrected Galactus screaming, "To me, my Galactus!" He's a big part of the Future Foundation who restores the multiverse after Secret Wars, and he's a kid whose childcare needs introduced us to Agatha Harkness. Even from a young age, older future versions of Franklin Richards begin to appear. So Marvel Studios is gonna have to cast some big actor to play this character at different ages of his life. I pitched that Timothée Chalamet could be a great younger Franklin, and Keanu Reeves could be a great adult Franklin, but in this movie, baby Franklin is gonna have a more pressing importance to the fate of this Earth, which we see as this trailer takes a dark turn.
Galactus is coming for him if I'm not mistaken.
Are you the protectors of this world?
Hell yeah, shorty. Who's asking?
Yes, we are.
Your
You look
planet is
mad
now
good.
marked for death.
So since she's not the Silver Surfer and there's the, like, that's the girl version, man, why don't we get the Silver Surfer to tame this? Get the real Silver Surfer to get her.
It's my fault. I stretched the bounds of space. And they hurt.
Now the music shifts into a tonal descent as we see the night sky glowing orange and meteors falling. We saw this in the last trailer, but I think again we are looking at the atmospheric disturbances that precede the Silver Surfer's initial arrival in the comics. And like many online, I've been predicting that Reed's every Sunday night at 7 on the dot message was part of their plan, maybe to set a trap for Galactus and or the Silver Surfer at a particular place at a particular time. But now we see the Silver Surfer lowering on her board into the Times Square of this New York. And I like how Times Square is just different. Like there's a nice pleasant green section added to the middle of it, and we see the elevated train tracks suspended by the huge arches that goes down the street. So of course this is the female Silver Surfer from the comics, Shalabal, played here by Julia Gardner from Netflix's Ozark.
If you want to stop me, you're gonna have to f***ing kill me!
Yeah, Reed, if you're gonna get to Galactus, you're gonna have to do that. Shalabal was first introduced in Silver Surfer #1 in 1968 as the love interest of the first Silver Surfer, Norrin Radd, but she becomes the Silver Surfer and Herald of Galactus in her own right later on. Actually, her backstory with Norrin Radd is how Mephisto gets introduced in Marvel Comics, but we're not gonna go into that here. Now, to be clear, we are in an alternate universe. We're part of a multiverse. We can have a multiverse of Silver Surfers out there. So this is probably not the only Silver Surfer we're ever going to meet in this multiverse. Indeed, when Julia Gardner was announced last year, Lakeith Stanfield posted that he thought he would be playing Silver Surfer before deleting that post, leading many to believe that he might be the Norrin Radd Silver Surfer in a future Marvel film. The Silver Surfer from the planet Zen-La is the Herald of Galactus, a being who is kind of tied to Galactus, given a portion of Galactus's power cosmic, empowered with a metallic skin and a surfboard-like craft, seeking worlds for Galactus's consumption. I know there's a lot of discourse around Julia Gardner's appearance as Silver Surfer and quite a few comparisons to the 2007 Silver Surfer played by Doug Jones and voiced by Lawrence Fishburne. Pretty good performance in a movie that now suddenly everyone loves, but I appreciate the design choice here to maintain Shalabal's teeth and her eyes and her irises and make all of these physical traits visible but rendered in cold silver, and finding a good balance for the character's hair because they need to have her have long hair, but here they give her this windswept look of someone whose board can make her travel at the speed of light. She just looks like she came off of the breakers, bruh, and I love it. It's interesting how Shalabal knows to approach the Fantastic Four directly, which is just further evidence that Matt Shakman wasn't kidding, that there are not any other Avengers or planetary heroes to speak for Earth. And Times Square lit up at night is just a great place for Silver Surfer to make her entrance because all of the lights from the signs create just a cool visual as they reflect off of her form. She looks really good. I just love the way her eyes look.
I feel like
they're
niggas
also
was
silver
like,
and kind of lifeless and
I feel
expression.
like motherfuckers, they just don't understand the comics, and neither did I. But I wasn't tripping off of first glance because I know there's always a deeper meaning when it comes down to Marvel and how they do stuff. So when I found out she was actually a different character, I was like, okay.
We also see the light up form of the Fantastic Four.
Marvel, it seems like Marvel is kind of going back to their roots, so they're not really trying to add a lot of woke stuff.
Rocket, the Marvel One, surrounded by electron rings, and the building in front of that is topped with 3 ads for what seem to be shaving cream, and then a larger billboard that looks like it's for Citizen Watches, which is a popular brand from the 60s. We see the word thinnest, and then a mere 21 millimeters or 2.1 millimeters. That'd be very small. So I'm assuming 21 millimeters and millimeters in an American print ad. Lord, I hope that the America of this universe uses the metric system, because that would be Reed Richards' greatest accomplishment. And in the upper right, I think that is ABC News of this universe. ABC News and Marvel Studios are both subsidiaries of Disney, and we see Johnny and Sue and Reed and Ben with the finest looking fit I've seen with that dress shirt.
Like,
man, it pinches that waist perfectly. But imagine that thing on a hanger. That'd look super weird. But they stand on this commemorative disc with some writing I was trying to make out. Going from Sue's feet clockwise there and reading upside down, I was able to make out, on this day, the Four saved this city. And then as you go across to where Reed is, grateful city who owes the Four. And that's as much as I could read. But I'm assuming this disc marks the Fantastic Four saving the city from some past villain. And it might have been the first big villain they faced to save the city, which could be Mole Man. Paul Walter Hauser is confirmed for this film. We don't know who yet, but I think he might be playing Mole Man. Mole Man's domain is Subterranea, beneath the city. And now I'm wondering if this disc could actually ironically be one of the access points to Subterranea. It's also ironic that they're now standing on a disc commemorating their saving of the city in this moment that they're being told their planet is now doomed. When Shalabal asks if they're protectors of this world, while Reed seems speechless, it's Sue who answers.
Are you the protectors of this world?
Yes, we are.
And I like how Reed seems caught off guard that Sue would so bravely answer this challenge without checking in with the others, even though it totally makes them targets. As Shalabal says, your planet is now marked for death. We see a projection of her head even larger behind her, so I'm assuming this is like a video wall or a holographic live feed recording from the news cameras, but it creates an unsettling image that suggests that the death that's coming for them is something kaiju sized. Silver Surfer now flies through a police helicopter, phasing through the craft, causing it to spin out of control, which really is just confusion by the pilots. They're like, ooh, what? Ah! I live in Los Angeles, and now that it's April, it is hot. Summer is here, and it's not going anywhere until after Halloween. That means if I want to get any sleep for the next 6 months, it's thermal sleep trial. So and he flames on to chase her down. We see more ads around Times Square, and there are some fun ones here. On the left by the helicopter tail, we see RKO Palace. RKO was, of course, a film studio, and they own their own movie theater here. The cinema marquee on the ground level reads Sunrise on Dusk or something like that. In the upper right, there's a movie poster, Sub-Zero Intel, which looks like it might be a spy movie like On Her Majesty's Secret Service. To the right of that, there's a video screen showing these little auto buggies, many of which we see on the streets below. And I wonder if it's some kind of like smart car that was designed by Reed Richards. Then there's a sign for the best sandwiches in New York. And beneath that, whoa, baby, Westview appliances and televisions. Looks like Matt Shackman threw in a WandaVision reference here, a series obsessed with television as a medium. And where there's a Westview, there is an Agatha Harkness, who again was introduced to Marvel Comics as the governess and nanny of Reed and Sue's family. Honestly, I do not think Agatha is going to show up in this movie, but Shalabal just said that this planet was marked for death, and technically death in any form in the MCU is Agatha's girlfriend. Lastly, in the lower left corner, the Forum Theater is showing Attack of the Fun Guy, which I'm pretty sure is a Pedro Pascal The Last of Us reference. So Johnny chases down the Silver Surfer, which is how he initially knee-jerk responds in the comics, when we also saw Chris Evans' Johnny Storm do this in 2007's Fantastic Four Rise of the Silver Surfer. But Johnny here chases her out of Earth's atmosphere and runs out of oxygen, so his flame runs out because fire needs oxygen to burn. He grabs the board and it responds with a kind of liquid movement, but then Shalabal jerks the board around to shake him off, causing Johnny to fall back down to Earth. And I love how the score at this point in the trailer just shifts to shrill choir streaks, punctuated like choked screams, turning it into the sound of horror. Now, canonically, the Silver Surfer's board is made out of the same silvery material that his skin is. It's indestructible, and if it ever gets damaged, the Surfer can restore it at will. He also doesn't need to be attached to the board. He can kind of control it remotely. The 2007 movie made a big deal out of separating the Silver Surfer from his board, and it explored how touching him or the board caused the Fantastic Four to swap powers with each other. That's not really how it works in the comics, and probably not in this movie. However, I recommend you still watch the 2005 and 2007 movies, or at least the breakdowns we did of them last year, because they do have their moments, especially the second one. Reed grimly says, I stretched the bounds of space and they heard. Reed seems to be taking some...
Is this nigga trying to farm aura points? That's why you got the board? I mean, that is clean.
Personal responsibility for his space travel and experiments being what alerted Earth's existence to Galactus and the Silver Surfer. Kind of like J. Robert Oppenheimer feeling his Promethean pursuits made Earth too noticeable to these outer cosmic threats. But was it just the act of space travel, or was Reed doing something else? Is he worried that his experiments to try to break through the walls of the multiverse, the thing that got Galactus's attention? Now, behind Reed here, you can see his yellow framed chalkboard. In the Entertainment Weekly article, we learned that the Baxter building has different rooms that are color-coded for different purposes. The red room for research, and actually the red room is what's behind Sue in this shot, with tables full of inventions, and then the blue room for monitoring, and we see Reed in this a bit later. On Reed's chalkboard is a sketch of some device or apparatus. I wonder if this could be something Reed is planning to install at the top of the Baxter building to try to open a rift in reality to try to trap Galactus in another universe. And we see more of what I think will be that part of the movie in the next clip.
Are we safe?
I don't know.
There's not enough time.
All right, in this shot, the people of New York look up concerned in an underground bunker with hanging tarps and lanterns and dust falling. Could this be in Subterranea beneath the city? Actually, over in the upper right corner, you can see people in blue suits that I assume are some of the Fantastic Four, one of them seated with a minor hard hat, doing something. Then we see Earth from space as the electrical grids go to black. The Entertainment Weekly article described this scene from the point of view of the Fantastic Four's all is lost moment. That seems like something happening late in the movie, 2/3 of the way through, if we're going technically by by what the all is lost moment is in normal screenplay structure. Here's a description from an Entertainment Weekly watching the actors do this scene during a set visit back in September. Something's gone horribly wrong. Cut the power, screams Pedro Pascal in character as Reed. In response to his desperate order, a blinding light fills the set at Pinewood Studios outside London before cutting out and leaving Pascal's Reed and his family drenched in darkness. People calling, says Eben Moss-Backrack, sitting at one of the lab's monitors as Ben Grimm, the Thing. Indeed, lights are blinking all over, indicating that whatever's causing the power outage is also inspiring distress calls from all over the world. For once, the Fantastic Four are at a loss. We're working on a pretty crucial moment, which in script writing you call the all is lost moment, director Matt Shackman tells Entertainment Weekly. The plan that you think is going to work fails, and you have to come up with another plan. The pressure on our heroes is at its highest. So the theory that I went into in this video is that if this truly is the film's all is lost moment, meaning late into the movie, this could be when Reed tries to use this device, the device that we see drawn on the chalkboard, to try to open a rift in reality above the Baxter building, trying to trap Galactus in a rift that could exile him to another universe, but that plan fails. It backfires, causing a blinding light that could be a worldwide incursion event. Next, we see reporters crowding the Fantastic Four in the lobby of the Baxter building. On the other side of the room, you can see a miniature showing the Baxter building skyscraper's curved structure as it leads to the Excelsior launch pad out in the East River that contains a Marvel 1 rocket. You can actually see this in the big shot of Galactus' shadow over the city. So this means they have to cross through this lobby to go out to or to come back from any time they launch out to space. Now, initially in the shot, we only see Sue from behind, and she's wearing a different suit than the others, a gray Future Foundation suit. I think the reason we're seeing her this way and don't see a reaction shot from her like we see for the other three is because she's either got a massive baby bump here, or she could actually be carrying baby Franklin in her arms in this shot. This could be after their return, because I'm pretty sure Franklin is born in space. In front of them is Sarah Niles' character. Our first look at her, she's also behind Reed as he responds to the reporter's question. Sarah Niles, you'll remember from Ted Lasso. We don't know what character she's playing, but she might be a kind of either midwife or OBGYN, or just someone responsible for helping Sue with the delivery. A reporter asks, "Are we safe?" And Reed looks pretty grim as he responds, "I don't know." Ben and Johnny's looks, though, are what I'm most interested in. They're hiding something in shame, like they might be expecting that they're about to let all the people on this planet die. We see Reed crossing out big portions of equations on this chalkboard. This is the same curved chalkboard in his yellow thinking room that we saw in the February teaser, and we know from that shot back in February that there is a three-dimensional wormhole with an enter and exit point and another universe written, and below that is a textbook Penrose diagram with a hexagonal figuration with the two diamonds, a squiggly line at the top and the bottom, the top for black hole, the bottom for white hole. In theoretical physics, it's just another way to conceive of the bending of space-time around black holes and a possible way to connect to a parallel universe. And the reason we're digging into this is that Reed Richards in the comics, of course, creates the bridge, a multiversal connecting point that allows him to observe but not cross over into physically parallel universes. I assume he's working on the early stages of that here, but the equations we see in this trailer, according to New Rockstars science expert Berg, are Einstein's field equations. These are equations of general relativity, which describe A, the unity of space-time, and B, the warping of space-time in the presence of mass or energy. The capital T is the tensor field, which Berg thinks is a way of describing the relationship between multiple massive objects. So maybe Reed Richards is trying to math out a way to use Galactus's massive scale to stretch the bounds of space and open a rift to another universe. I'll admit, I may be completely wrong about Reed trying to open a rift. I just feel like he's gonna try to do something to Galactus, and if Galactus predates this universe, he's gonna try to combat him using some other axis of existence, whether it's time or reality. And we've seen plenty of examples of people trying to create a time loop to defeat an undefeatable villain, and I'd just be surprised if they try to fight Galactus the same way Doctor Strange fought Dormammu. Then, in this shot, Reed sits in his blue observation room and says, "There's not enough time." Now, if there's not enough time, are we looking at another time loop? I mean, not only was it Doctor Strange, Richard Donner's Superman used a time loop to fix everything at the end. But then, maybe one of the craziest shots of the trailer, the Marvel 1 spaceship approaches a planet in the process of being destroyed. We see fiery cracks throughout the crust, massive clouds of dust and smoke billowing out into space. The question we all have is this Earth? Did the Fantastic Four get off of the planet Earth knowing it would be doomed and are now watching their own home planet die? Would Marvel Studios show us that in the trailer? Is this like a dream or a nightmare sequence? Is this a hypothetical demonstration of what could happen?
That's probably Reed's dream. How much I want to bet? That's literally
Earth
Reed's
and
dream.
the Fantastic Four
He had
are
a
seen
dream about
projected by
this.
Galactus' ship Ta-2. Are we seeing what could happen to Earth or several versions of Earth via incursion events as a warning to the Fantastic Four? Or could the Marvel 1 spaceship be looking at a different planet that's not Earth, and they've gone out into the galaxy to see if Galactus is a serious threat? Well, I think this is Earth, whether or not what this spacecraft is facing is real or not. Only so many planets out there have blue oceans and green land masses like this, and I just don't know if the Marvel 1 has explored that many other galaxies and solar systems yet. But by showing us this in the trailer, Marvel Studios at least wants us to go into the movie thinking the alternate Earth of this movie very well could be destroyed. Let me know in the comments below what you make of this shot, but let's move on.
I'm not.
I think it's a dream.
We will face this together. We will fight it together. As a family.
All right, we're in baby Franklin's nursery, and Sue promises that she's not giving up. And Reed notices something in the solar system mobile with the red spot of Jupiter in the foreground, and the whole thing wobbles. Maybe it wobbles because it's a mobile. Mobiles often do this. Maybe something's vibrating the building, or maybe Reed's getting an idea. But either way, we match cut from this shot, Reed's big ol' head facing a comparatively smaller planet, to this shot of Galactus' shadow appearing over New York City. Then this shot of the Fantastic Four pulling up in the Fantastic car in an empty Times Square, looking upward at something. There's snow all over the ground, so we're in a different time of year. But in the background on the left is an orange sign for, hey, Timely Comics. Timely Comics was a company founded in 1939 in the Golden Age that produced the original run of Captain America. It became Atlas Comics in 1951 and then adopted the name Marvel as a company brand in 1961 when the Fantastic Four rolled out. Also in the background on the far right is another billboard for Attack of the Fungi. Another very interesting shot is this Shalabal rising on her board out of molten material in this massive forge with some interesting looking steampunky tech. Where do we think this is? Is this some forge on Earth that the Fantastic Four used to try to kill the Silver Surfer and obviously it fails? Or could we be looking at the innards of Galactus's home
Told you. Oh no, it's ship. I thought it was inside of him.
Ta-2. This could be the moment he forges the Silver Surfer to give her the power cosmic. I love how the editing match cuts from Shalabal rising in frame to Sue Storm standing from a crouched position, but now tears in her eyes as she watches something. Behind her is a screen that I think shows a planetary sphere in the state of destruction. Could this be the moment Sue has to watch her home planet of Earth being destroyed? There's another shot of Times Square that might be another incident the Fantastic Four come to the rescue. We see an explosion tearing through the elevated train platform. I wonder if this might be part of the opening action sequence of the film, but we do see a whole bunch of signs here. We see 7-Up and Canada Dry. We see Little Caesars Pizza. Of course, again, Sub-Zero Intel is playing at the embassy. Dear Margaret is playing at the RKO Palace. We see a Lucky Charms billboard and a billboard for the Lone Nomad, maybe a play on the Lone Ranger, but of course Nomad was also another moniker that Steve Rogers went under. We see Hover Grills and then something for a kind of lime soda and Reynolds Women's Apparel, and then we see Shalabal truly surfing a wave of fiery destruction. I don't know where this is, but I think it's a past planet being destroyed because in the final frames of the shot you see some purple lens flares here, so I assume Galactus is part of whatever's happening here. Then this wild shot of the Thing hauling a damaged ship into shore, pulling it by its chain. You may have seen comparisons online between this shot and shots of Superman and Man of Steel and Captain Jack Sparrow in Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End. Now, Ben Grimm is a strong boy, but this strong? Also, before he reached the shallow part, did Ben have to swim and tow this boat that way? Is the Thing even buoyant? And we see a girl running back for her Thing figurine with that double mint gum ad in the background. I think this is part of that sequence with the damaged elevated train line where Sue Storm has to suspend the train car. All right, let's move on.
Has to be us.
Now we get to see Mr. Fantastic. Ooh!
We will protect you.
Okay, I think we see the start of that elevated train sequence. The Fantastic Four run out from the Ted Gilbert Show theater, so I think they have to leave that talk show early. Like this could be the first action sequence of the film. They start on the Ted Gilbert Show, and then in the middle of that Ted Gilbert Show, they hear an explosion outside, and then they have to run out and address that. And also, you'll notice above the doors of the theater, you can see celebrating 4 years of the Fantastic Four. So if it's been 4 years, and let's say they got their powers in 1961, which is their comics debut, maybe this movie is set in 1965 of an alternate universe. Across the street in the background, you can again see the Timely Comics store. Johnny flames on and flies beneath the bridges of the city over the Hudson River. You can see trains running beneath the bridges, and that's so cool because if these same train cars run on the elevated tracks in Manhattan, that would mean they would have to have rail connectors on the bottoms and on the tops of the cars, and I love that design. We see Ben smashing through concrete pillars, then we get our first ever shot of Reed Richards stretching his body in slow motion. He looks pretty great. He kicks off the water tower through the crashing debris, carrying a metal pole or something. Now you can see this more clearly on the official poster that was released, but Reed and I think all the others have little floors on the soles of their boots since they're always flinging above and around people at various angles. Of course, Reed Richards would miss no opportunity for branding. I cannot wait to see this Reed Richards get to know the other Reed Richards from across the multiverse whenever
I remember
the Council of Reeds meets. Probably not
nigga.
in this movie, but maybe in Doomsday. Pedro Pascal told comicbook.com.
Yeah, because ain't Reed a pivotal part in the multiverse? Like, he's really smart. Like, he's a very important piece.
When it came to his stretched out movement, he was thinking about, quote, the brilliance of an octopus, which tells me that Pedro Pascal did some of his own graceful movements on one of her soundstage to try to set up the VFX artists to make this kind of stretching look a bit more natural from the actor's perspective. Also, Doc Ock is going to be pissed when that gets back to him. On the other side of this building is Galactus. Yep, it's kind of hard to tell if that's his head or his leg, but actually, IMAX released a special version of this trailer with many shots in the 190:1 aspect ratio, and in that aspect ratio, you can see both of Galactus's big fat legs. And then we see the shot we've seen before, Sue Storm using her shield projection powers, but now the shot.
Yo, I did no bullshit. I only really care about seeing Johnny and seeing Mr. Fantastic's powers. Mr. Fantastic probably top 4, not 4, 3, or 2. But I guys, like, I want to see him for the most part of the movie. I need to see that nigga stretch. Pause.
Last longer, showing her looking weaker,
I feel like his
more
power
run
is
down,
so
and
cool.
her arm and chest start to flicker to be invisible. And then, speaking from a podium with, I think that's like the Globe of the Future Foundation logo behind Reed, Reed now promises, we will protect you. But can he make that promise with any confidence? All right, on to the final stinger of the trailer.
This nigga is walking in the street. Bro, he's walking.
Whoa! The purple boots of Galactus stomp up Broadway, shaking all of these parked cars and the lampposts and the traffic cones. I love how you can also see his purple armored legs reflected in the windows of the building opposite us down the block. Now, this shot is definitely good to check out in the IMAX version where you can see even more of Galactus's form. And I've said this before, but while Galactus is normally larger than a planet, he does have the ability to resize himself down to whatever size he wants, including to be just a tall humanoid or just the size of a skyscraper, as he is here, able to fit within a city block. In the Entertainment Weekly article, Matt Shackman said that they built a human-sized purple armored Galactus suit, suggesting that they were using miniatures for certain shots, asking the question, how do you animate Mount Rushmore? Now, using miniature cities for these shots is really the old-fashioned way to shoot kaijus in cities, like in the classic Godzilla films and in Ultraman and Power Rangers, of course. So, are we looking at a miniature in this shot? Miniature cars, miniature lampposts, traffic cones, street barriers, not animation, but practical miniatures. Like, notice the way those lampposts on the right wobble as Galactus approaches. That definitely looks like this is a practical miniature. Now, I'm sure a lot of the details here, and maybe even the final version of this shot in the movie, might be enhanced with some VFX and CGI debris, but to use practical miniatures at all for any of these Galactus shots would definitely bring a tangible realism that we so rarely see in effects-heavy sequences in the MCU. So if Galactus wants to consume Earth, as he does in the comics, why is he walking around on Earth? Why would he shrink down to be able to walk through the city of Manhattan? Well, I brought up the theory in past videos that Galactus might be targeting Earth to try to acquire baby Franklin Richards, to use Franklin's reality warping power to either save this universe from an incursion or to revive his own dead universe. The Entertainment Weekly article quotes Pedro Pascal as saying, even the smartest man in the world is awestruck by a being that outdates his understanding of time. And so Reed probably has to think about what Galactus would want, how to motivate him, and how Galactus comes from a universe universe that
the
came
back of
before
his
the Big
helmet
Crunch,
looks so
and before the Big Bang,
intimidatingly
before
cool.
our universe existed, the 6th iteration before our 7th iteration of the universe. So Galactus might want Baby Franklin's powers to reverse that Big Crunch. And a cosmic threat attacking Earth, wanting this baby in particular, is similar to why Annihilus first confronts the Fantastic Four, and really the first storyline where Franklin Richards' powers start to manifest. So that would present this dilemma that was teased in the description we've got for this movie's plot long ago, that things suddenly start to get personal. And what's more personal than the decision between letting Earth be destroyed or giving up your own son? Like, doesn't seem like the Fantastic Four are gonna be like, no freaking way are we gonna give up our baby. But obviously that decision is gonna piss off everyone on this planet, people who once adored them, but that still would be a sacrifice that anyone watching this movie would completely understand. And with Pedro Pascal in The Last of Us, it would make yet another character for him who doomed all of humanity to spare a child. That's why I think Matt Shackman is so gleeful in including the Attack of the Fungi Easter egg in this movie. A big thanks to Berg and to Brandon Barrick for their research help with this video, and a big thanks to our generous channel members, TDS on a Quest, Cameron, Frederick Price, and Jeremy Dunham, who support us at the executive producer level. Comment down below with your thoughts, follow me at EA Voss, and subscribe to all 3 channels in the New Rockstars network for breakdowns and news coverage of everything you love. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.
Nah, facts, man. You know what I even love the most, even more about these movies? Goodness, an hour and 30 minutes. What the what I love the most about these movies, like these pieces that, like, well, they're not doing an original piece, obviously. They're not doing like the, oh, we're gonna show you how they got their powers and stuff. No, they got skin in the game. I love how, like, it just, like, New Rockstars is like breaking this stuff down, so now we're learning more and more about the character as the trailers and the promos come out, you know. Because obviously we knew about the Fantastic Four, but we didn't really know about them, no. But, like, I didn't know they had a kid. You know what I'm saying? A lot of us ain't read comics. I gotta watch The Last of Us. But yeah, man, goodness gracious, that shit, almost an hour, because I'm editing a lot of this stuff. I was like, I'm not gonna see this, but I know I'm been on this motherfucking video for about an hour. I'm out of y'all. God bless y'all. I hope y'all having a good day. I'm out of here, y'all.
You actually finished my video. I don't know if you watched a lot or a little, but I appreciate you. I'm gonna see you on the next video. I'm out.